I wanted to do a recurring joke with like Twix and Twixt. Like Twixt and Twix.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I wanted to find out like the tagline for Twix. Thinking it would have something like "take a break" or "get some nuts," like Snickers and such. The current tagline for Twix is "chew it over with Twix."
Put it in your mouth with Twix.
It's chocolate, some of it. Past slogans include Twix and tea, happy together. So kind of a joint promotion with tea.
Big T stepped in on that one.
I don't like tea. Twix is not for you.
Give that back.
Twix, try both and pick a side. Which is from their ad campaign where it was like...
of course, the brothers.
Yes, the Twix brothers.
It's a bad slogan there.
That's a bad slogan because you need to understand a lengthy marketing campaign to get it. The last one here that I have is like really leaning into the comfort food angle because it's Twix. Need a moment? I think that's the one that works best with Twixt. Francis Ford Coppola's Twix. Need a moment?
I know I do.
Podcast that will always make time for an old master's cinematic fever dream and might just pick out the odd blood-stained spectral fanning whilst it's at it. I'm Paul Salt.
I'm confused.
Well, that's going to be resolved shortly. This is a week of clarity for the Pauls.
Staring down the barrels right into an anus.
Today we shall be languishing in the lucid nightmare of Francis Ford Coppola's Twixt, the great director's last film to date, following a career that began with bizarre genre fare like Dementia 13 and Finian's Rainbow, before moving on to legendary hits like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, and then ending with bizarre genre fare like Jack and Twixt. Coppola did have critical hits as late as 2009 with Tetro, his Tetris prequel. But those aren't fun to talk about, so let's talk about this messy horror pie.
There was once upon a time a town not far from a big city. It was at this time that a third-string writer of popular fiction named Hall Baltimore drove in on his book signing tour of another of his series of novels about witchcraft.
We had a mass murderer a while back. A lot of folks think the town's haunted.
The movie is about a once brilliant genre author with an alcohol problem who arrives in a small town only to be beset by... Oh, no, sorry, hang on. This is the plot to every Stephen King story ever.
And Stephen King, the life of.
It still works, I guess. Let me just tick the right option on the list here. He arrives in a small town. He's beset by killer clown, no. Scary dog, no. Max von Sydow, no. His own failures as a father, vampires? That's it.
Yeah.
He's beset by vampires? That's the villain of the piece.
It's a film about vampires? By Francis Ford Coppola?
Is it? Your snicker was inclined at the end.
Yep.
As in, funny? Twixt was received by critics like a Bruce Dern in the head. Kirk Honeycutt, great name, the Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Podcast over. Kirk Honeycutt.
Kirk Honeycutt. He's the inverse Kurt Vonnegut.
He was born in the ashes of the original Kurt. To restore order to the sci-fi fantasy genre.
He writes very mundane science fiction stories where characters aren't called crazy things. They're called like Ted Landerson. Oh god, I hope someone called Ted Landerson is listening to our fucking podcast. It's like, hey!
Ted Landerson sounds kind of Pynchon-esque though.
Yeah. Shit. Kirk Honeycutt. A Hollywood Reporter. I know, it never diminishes. The dream sequence gives the director and cinematographer, I didn't practice his name before I read this, Mihai Mer. Oh my god. That's like Hoyt van Hoytema. Do all cinematographers have these wonderful recursive names? Kirk van Kurtikert.
Just getting these beautiful like alliterations down in the name just trigger something in the chromosomes from birth. Come from the womb with a shining halo.
It rewires the membrane to see only beautiful images. Mihai Malamer. Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry, Mihai Malamer. Mihai Malware, Jr. Free reign to throw just about any gothic imagery on the screen. Just about any old gothic imagery. Just get it up there. Castle, yep.
Here's a gargoyle.
One can only reflect on what young Coppola, with his masterful camera work and vivid imagination, might have done with such an opportunity. Unfortunately, the present-day one produces only tepid and tired imagery that would not earn high marks in any film school. I mean, it depends who the student was. If the student was 5-time Oscar award-winning filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola, you might grade on a curve. On the curb of your house. Brian Orndorff, also pretty good.
Wow.
At Blu-ray.com, said, interesting shotgun blast of ideas and moods, and while it doesn't braid together as evenly as Coppola might have hoped, the picture maintains a full punch of atmosphere. Get that up here. Oh, the public, I didn't finish this sentence, said, David Spanswick over at Amazon.
Oh my god! What's going on this week?
Hi, I'm David Spanswick.
Here's my friend Andy Landerson. And Kirk Honeycutt. Sorry, what are your names? Paul and Paul?
Fuck off. How can we make our names Vonnegut ready? It would have to be... No, Paul would have to be the surname. It would have to be...
Paul Good Pop. Paul Good Pork.
Pop Paulie. That's pretty good.
Pop Paul is pretty Pinchian. Pinchian?
You heard it here. Pop Paulie's pretty Pinchian. Paul's produced. Pop Paulie, pretty Pinchian.
Everything we've said for the last 10 minutes is the title of a Kirk Vonnegut novel. Not a fucking Kirk Honeycutt novel, though. That would just be called Book with Words in.
Buy now or don't. Okay. David Spanswick, in an Amazon review titled A Spectacular Misfire, said, wow, this is either destined for cult status, ellipses, not.
Oh.
Or that aforementioned bargain basement. And he gave it 3 stars.
Oh, did he not specify yes? True statement.
True statement. I need everything to be ellipsed and then indicated to be either true or false.
Confirmed. Yeah.
Confirm or deny it, David Spanswick, you fucking...
You can't start with one rule and then just switch it up just because you're named David Spanswick.
Or Francis Ford Coppola. Okay. John Moore, also on Amazon, said, I agree with the other reviewer, David Spanswick. No, he didn't. I agree with David.
Well, with a name like John Moore, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
I agree with the other reviewers who give this film a 1 star. A 1 star.
Okay.
What a boring film. Val Kilmer is wasted in this kind of film. And Bruce Dern cannot help to make this tripe of rubbish move any better.
What?
Watched about half an hour and binned it for the second-hand shop. What rubbish.
He stood in the second-hand shop. You know, the second-hand shops that they have.
Hi, sir, have you brought us,
with a bin.
Have you brought us something? And then he just throws his thing into the bin. There you go. You don't know how this works. Binned it for the second-hand shop.
What a fabulously fucking weird way to express that.
What a strange man. It surprises me that John Moore should be the weirdest of the crazy fucking people I brought with me today.
Well, it's like, you know how Lars von Trier had a very sort of nice middle-class socialist upbringing? Look and look at him.
What the fuck was that? Yeah, I mean, it's very much like Ho Chi Minh had a really good Western education. I mean, that's surprising, isn't it?
You know, you button it all up, and you know, parts start squeezing out like beating up football.
Leanne Tors over at Amazon.
It's not bad.
That's alright. Switched it off after half an hour. Couldn't believe how much weight Val Kilmer has put on. Don't bother with this film. Okay.
Okay, should have watched Hollywoodland. Hollywoodland? Is that the one? What's the one where he's a porn star?
The Saint remake?
Okay, let's.
Okay, yeah,
God.
the Saint.
I'm gonna have to IMDb.
All right,
Val Kilmer. Let me see.
You have to do it out loud to prevent me from doing anything productive in the meantime.
No, actually,
I do.
Wonderland is the one. Oh, Wonderland also had Carrie Fisher in it.
Oh, lovely. Well,
Val Kilmer. I remember Val Kilmer also being fat in this. Maybe he was in good shape because he was playing an ex-porn star. I just remember Val Kilmer being
all
fat.
in shape.
In my head, he's never not been fat, even though there was obviously a while when he wasn't, because Batman.
Yeah, well, Batman, yeah. Got a fat man.
It's very true. See, with a boring name like Paul Salt, you've got to come up with good nuggets like that. Can't just go around like a David Spanswick.
Paul Salt isn't that bad. Like, maybe I'm not Vonnegut worthy, but I'd get into, like, a Stephen King.
It's better than Paul Goodman. You've got the, like, monosyllabism of the first and last name.
I'm Clint Rock, and I'm here to have sex with you today.
Yep. I'm Buck Fuck. Howdy fucking do.
Fucking do.
It's Mr. Fuck.
Let's talk about Twixt. The film made $1.7 million back on a $7 million budget, and this is probably the first time you've heard of it. So, Paul, you bargain bin Stephen King.
He said, sneering scarily.
What's one thing about Twixes that made you want to remove a steak from a woman's chest?
There's a lot of good split screen action in this.
Oh boy, there is. Like Brian De Palma. Brian De Palma.
Brian Dobama.
Brian Dobama.
Apostrophe. Brother of Barack Obama. Reference to episode 33 or something. I don't know.
Who the fuck knows?
The true fans will know.
Prove us wrong.
There was a lot
You'd have to listen to one.
Go on.
Ask yourself, is it worth it?
Don't ask that. Please. It's like a modern film.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola knows that.
He's got a treat for you.
This is for a fan of all you fans of their modern films.
Paul, what's Val Kilmer up to this week? In the adventures of Val Kilmer.
Well, Val Kilmer had to put on a nice old big to play a writer called Hall Baltimore.
That's pretty good.
Hall Baltimore is a bargain basement Stephen King, as told to him by Bruce Dern, who plays what he's also got a pretty good name, and he refers to himself in third person.
Bobby LaGrange.
Bobby LaGrange.
Yeah.
Bobby LaGrange, the detective. Clearly it's the work of a serial killer. Someone wants to silence the girls on the other side of the lake because they fry his sick mind. And then they sizzle him because of some psycho hocus-pocus condition that condemns them to being the evil sluts that they are. And that is what's in his sick mind.
He's in a small town, and he is doing a book signing.
Yeah.
And nobody really comes to the book signing because
bargain
basement Stephen King. Even Stephen King can't pull in more than 5 people at any one time. But Bobby LaGrange comes in and says, "Hey, I've got a proposition for you, Mr. Shit Writer."
Yes.
You know, nothing really going on in his life to say yes immediately, but he eventually comes around to it because Bobby LaGrange takes him into a morgue to go and look at a dead girl.
Do you want to come see a dead person? Yes, I do. Bruce Dern is introduced, incidentally, in this really awkward shot where he appears at the end of an aisle, and then he comes forward, but the camera doesn't move. It's kind of like, "Hey, Mr. Writer, Mr. Coppola, do you want to move the camera up so that you can, like, get my face in?" No, I'm not going to move the fucking camera, okay? The camera is going to stay focused, okay? You don't get to move the fucking camera in life, okay? But the camera is where it is, and you just got to deal with where the camera is, okay? This is like a new age, okay? And we are heading into the heart of darkness, and I'm not going to move the fucking camera away from the heart of the abyss, okay? Okay, I'll stoop.
It's just that it's making my cheeks sweat. There's a suction cup on the face there.
That's beautiful. Use it.
Bobby LaGrange. Bobby LaGrange isn't comfortable with this.
I thought you were Bobby LaGrange. No, it's a fake. It's fine, Mr. Coppola.
Francis Ford Coppola doesn't understand what you're saying, Bruce Dern.
But now you're doing it. What the fuck is this?
It's a redux. What?
Val Kilmer's just like, "Can I go?"
I remember I was in Batman.
No.
So Bobby LaGrange takes Val Kilmer to the morgue, which is sort of an annex on the side of Bruce Dern's house, which is also the police station. I don't know. It's a small town.
Yeah.
He lives in a tent, and he's built a morgue next to it. And he goes in, and there's a dead girl leaning on a gurney. I was going to say leaning on a gurney. That wouldn't be technically correct.
Hello there, sailor.
Don't mind the whole death thing.
Don't mind the steak out of my chest.
Yeah, she's lying there with a steak in her chest.
Yeah. And Bruce Dern says, this chick could have been anyone. Probably one of those whores from across the lake. God, I hate them. God,
I'm Bobby LaGrange.
I'm Bobby LaGrange, and I fucking hate those chicks. Anyway, I wonder who the killer is. So,
yeah, never mind. Bobby LaGrange has an idea. He says, "Why don't the two of us collaborate on a new horror book? You're a mediocre sort of
hey, you're washed up.
Run of the mill writer.
We're about on par.
And I'm almost dead.
Let's do it.
Let's write the book, he says.
Yeah.
He has a Skype conversation with his wife.
His dreadful wife.
His dreadful wife is also ex-real wife.
Oh, well, that added to that really seamless chemistry between them.
Pretend there's nothing wrong and put food on the table.
Denise, will you listen to me?
You can't speak to me like this. Just grow up. Grow up.
People always ask me, how do you know so much about witches? And I tell them, because I married one.
This film is so fucking meta. They're not getting on very well. He's got to pitch a new idea. So he agrees. He does agree because he has a dream.
Well, yes. He goes to stay in the house that once housed Edgar Allan Poe, which is an excellent reason to pick a hotel. Edgar Allan Poe stayed here once.
Role model.
He stayed here once. He shat himself all night long after eating our complimentary dinner, and called it the worst night of his life and the inspiration for many of his more violent and horrific works. So stay here.
Edgar Allan Poe drank a quart of whiskey and then had sex with his 13-year-old cousin in this very room.
Oh boy!
I'm going to write a book.
I think I can still see the butt prints.
Are they creative juices or am I just happy to be here?
Yeah, let's find out.
You're fired from this, Val Kilmer.
You just can't fire my Val Kilmer, okay? Val Kilmer is the heart of darkness in this movie, and you just can't throw him out because mediocrity is like everywhere right now, okay? I'm not happy with any of what's happening. I'm not asking you to be happy, okay? Then he goes to sleep.
Yep.
And he dreams of an Ellie Fanning.
Fanning shows up.
Fanning shows up.
A Fanning comes right out of a Wes Anderson movie to stand next to Val Kilmer.
Only she's done up like Tim Burton.
It's very confusing. It's very meta.
It is. She's 12 years old and 9 feet tall. And
she wants to save Christmas.
She says, all the kids keep making fun of me because of my teeth. And she shows him his teeth, and she's got like weird vampire teeth, but with braces.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, there's nothing wrong with those teeth. Those braces, though. Oh, oh, Jesus. No.
Oh, sorry. I've just got to brace myself before you show me anything like that. Oh,
look what I did.
Yes,
says Val Kilmer.
Oh, God.
And he does like a 5-minute dance.
Oh, God, sorry. So I'll try and retain my emotions.
12 minutes later. He goes back to his hotel in the dream, but she's not going to come in with him for some reason. And he goes in, and there's a guy inside who's fucking trying to fix the clocks. And he says, you don't believe in daylight saving time, do you? What? You know who invented daylight saving time? I'm sorry, I have no idea what the fuck you're saying. It's alright, you'll get it on the 3rd or 4th try.
Those 7 faces, they look at me like I was the one that invented daylight savings time. You know who came up with daylight savings time, don't you?
Do you like daylight savings time? Daylight savings time! I see, right. Fucking hell.
I literally realised they were talking about daylight savings time just as I finished talking about daylight savings time. I thought, fuck it, Paul, you're resting on your laurels of the Emoji Movie. You've got to start paying attention. I'm really glad that it wasn't just me.
It was fucking baffling. It was like an abyss of words. And then they chase off Ellie Fanning, who's at the window, as she so often is.
Yeah.
She's at your window now. Don't go looking at her, it'll just encourage her. She gets chased off. He goes after her and discovers a priest, a creepy priest tracing a bunch of kids out of a house.
Played by Sean Locke.
Oh, the creepy priest.
Sean Locke chases these girls.
He sees Fanning under the water. Our lead guy, our Kilmer does.
Yeah.
And then he bumps into Edgar Allan Poe. And he says, Edgar Poe? It's Edgar Allan Poe. Eddie Poe, please show me back to my hotel room. And he does, and he wakes up. End of first dream.
Played by, is it Basil from Dorian Gray?
Ben Chaplin, so yes?
Yeah, Basil or Cyril or one of those names.
One of those guys. One of those guys who was murdered by pretty boy Dorian Gray. Interesting man.
Also from hit 90s UK sitcom Game On.
Well, hey!
So, yes, he wakes up and he goes, gosh, I've just totally got to write this motherfucking novel.
Yes.
So he goes over to Bobby LaGrange. He goes, Bobby LaGrange! And Bobby LaGrange says, Bobby LaGrange is like a Pokemon. I'll let you out of your Pokeball if you come and help me write a novel.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, in order to help him write a novel, he stays exactly where he is so Val Kilmer can go and get drunk and try and write the novel on his own. And he tries to pitch the the idea to his publicist or or publisher or whatever.
Played by Squinty David Paymer, who appears on Skype in order to tell him that, good ideas have meat on the bone.
Yes, not mist on the lake.
Mist on the lake. Which is fart in the wind, more like.
Oh, chip on the shoulder?
Ship off the old block?
I don't know. You're the writer, he says, and hangs up.
That was mysterious.
So then we have 1 minute of vamping from Val Kilmer.
Do any impressions you have, sir?
Do any impressions? I know. I'll do an impression of a black basketball player, says Val Kilmer.
A gay black basketball player, sir.
I'm typing as a gay basketball player from the 60s. No, I like short shorts. They are revealing, but they're comfortable. It helps me jump.
There was no fog on the lake.
12 hours later, he's like, Sam, I've got it. I've absolutely fucking got it. Listen. Hey, everyone. You were working on a novel. Yes, of course I was.
I've got it. The voice to end all voices. What was
25 grand?
You just did your arms out.
He at some stage goes back and visits Bruce Dern. Before the next dream sequence, and Bruce Dern talks more about those sluts on the other side of the lake. Yeah. There's a group of kids on the other side of the lake, by the way, who are troublesome, and the town don't like them, especially Bruce Dern, who's not the killer. And Bruce Dern says that he thinks there's some sort of vampire connection.
Yeah.
Because the woman was staked. And it was inserted very slowly and seriously into her. And he has a little bit of concept design to show to Val Kilmer, as well as an early design of the actual device and a picture of himself using it. He's still not the killer, though.
No, absolutely not the killer. Speaking of pictures, Val Kilmer does look at a picture of his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And underneath it is written, "My gorgeous daughter, age 12, who died 14 years ago in a boating accident. God, I miss her, and I miss her every day, and I'll never forgive myself for it." And he stares at that for a good minute or so.
He reads it to remember his backstory that he so often forgets, whilst he's trying to imitate gay basketball players from the 60s.
And that photograph was inside a book that said, "To my dearest daughter, I love you, and I really hope you never die in a boating accident from 14 years ago. Because I'll never recover from it. I'll never write again."
The actual tribute written into that book is brilliant, because it's something like, "This is my first book. I am proud of it, and of you. Signed, Dad."
Yeah. Good.
"Dear daughter, book is good. You is better. Dinner at 4.
Please no die." But speaking of death and destruction, back to the fucking sluts on the lake. Which they're led by some fucking gay dancing boy.
Oh, yeah.
Alden Ehrenreich from Hail Caesar and the Star Wars solo movie.
Yeah. The Star Wars solo movie. Finally a solo movie starring Star Wars.
Thank God. It's the one we've all deserved but never wanted. And Alden Ehrenreich is dressed up like Davey Havoc for this.
Yes, and he's nicknamed Flamingo. That hard biker name.
That would have been passed off properly in a Cormac McCarthy novel. You'd have read that and gone, yeah, I can see that.
Yes,
it would have been in Spanish without any capitals or punctuation, and you'd have gone, God, that's hardcore.
He'd be riding through the mesa with like a pink umbrella and a black top hat, and he'd be the scariest motherfucker you've ever read about if Cormac McCarthy were writing this fucking thing.
He was a poet when the sun went down, and when the sun went down, he loved the poets. God, Cormac McCarthy's good. But in this, he's Flamingo, and then Bobby LaGrange shows up. Yeah. And arrest Han Solo.
He does.
Because...
Well, he's a rogue.
Well, he's a rogue. He's one rogue.
Yes, he calls his publisher one last time in order to... well, his wife has found his special book. By...
Walt Whitman.
Fucking guy out of Breaking Bad. Yeah, Walt Whitman.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes, she's going to sell that, so he calls his agent and asks for 25 grand. And the agent's like, I'll give you 10 grand. 25 grand, thank you so much. No, I said 10. Thank you, bye. No, wait. Oh, shit. Now I have to pay him.
Now, because he got the last word, that's literary law.
Damn it, I hate literary law. Written by Kurt Vonnegut and Vert Connigat and Barry Honeycutt and...
Baz Spansbath. That's a good one.
And Joe Slothrop.
Buckfuck had nothing to do with it. He's a man of his own laws.
Anyway, after a few more rants about the terrible people across the lake by both the sheriff... and by the suspicious molesty priest in the dream world.
Yeah.
He has a few more dreams. He has a few more not dreams. Eventually, it culminates in turning out that the sheriff was actually the killer.
Oh, what?
I know, fucking Bruce Nebraska Dern. He hits him over the head with a birdhouse and runs off to the woods.
Yeah.
Which is a good segue for Hall to have another dream.
Thank God.
And he dreams about all the I don't know. Oh, the priest murdered and drugged. He murdered and then drugged the kids so that they wouldn't turn into vampires.
Yes.
He murders them to kill them, and then he drugs them so that they don't wake up from the murder. Then he kills himself, right? He hangs himself out of guilt. The writer realizes that really he hasn't been able to write because of his writer's block, because his daughter died in a weird boating accident.
Oh, yes, of course, and he could never forgive
And
himself.
a highly contrived boating accident.
Yes, from Face Off.
Nicolas Cage shot her from across the room. Across the room. He was in the living room.
The room of the world.
He had a sniper rifle. Okay, he wakes up, I think, and he goes to the coroner's office to find that the sheriff has killed the deputy, who was around every now and then. For comedic relief, probably. Yeah. And then he hung himself with a sign around his neck saying, "Guilty."
Yeah.
Guilty of what, you might wonder? All the murders around? Maybe, probably.
Probably not.
I
don't know.
You know what Bruce Dern's like? He goes into the morgue, and there's a chick there who's dead. He pulls the stake out. It turns out to be Ellie Fanning.
After all.
Pulls the stake out, and she grows vampire teeth and bites him on the neck.
Yep.
Oh, how's our hero going to get out of this one? Oh, Francis Ford Coppola doesn't really know, so he just ends the movie.
Yeah. the next scene, he's in the publisher's office, getting congratulated on writing a fantastic novel. Yeah. What's the title of it? Credits.
Twixt? Yeah. Well done on writing a novel. Cut to black, and a post-film thing says, the book was popular, and everyone lived happily ever after. Except for Alden Ehrenreich, who was never seen again, and also Bruce Dern did kill himself? Also, not all of it was a dream. Nope, not all of it. Anyway, Bye! And then the end credits play out with Francis Ford Coppola waving at the audience.
Like, is it over? Can I stop waving? I'll keep waving.
Yeah, and that was the end of Twixt. Need a minute?
I know I fucking do. I mean, the black and the white bits, they were the dreams, right? I mean, it was subtle, but they were the dreams.
Except at the end when, I don't know, the Wikipedia says right here.
Yeah.
Right here, Paul. Look where I'm pointing.
Okay.
Implying that everything from the first dream sequence up until this point has been the manuscript he was writing.
Bollocks.
Yeah, that's not the case. Yeah.
It's this very metatextual film Francis Ford Coppola had very grand ideas for, and it was the merging of Copying Dockhead, written by Paul Allen Goodman, actually, of One Good Thing podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really
Clearly,
good novel,
that was
actually.
A massive inspiration.
I mean, me and Francis go way back. He keeps saying, "Come on, Paul, help me, share your ideas." And I'm like, sorry, Frankie.
Can't get you out of this one.
Yeah, I'll give you a bronze if ever one comes my way. But it's this very metatextual idea of merging, reality and fiction. The more he gets into writing the novel, we don't really see him writing the novel.
No, we just see
one sequence in the dream when he's standing there with a notepad, going really furiously writing things down as this priest is like
a novelist.
These girls. Yeah, just like a novelist does. And I guess you have to assume that as things get crazier and crazier, that it starts impinging on real life. And when Bobby LaGrange turns out to definitely be the murderer, surprisingly, when he knocks him out with a birdhouse, maybe he didn't do that. I don't know.
But yeah, the postscript does imply that the guy did hang himself, and then Alden Ehrenreich disappeared. The thing is, with the exception of the very tight plots he inherited from Mario Puzo in The Godfather, Coppola always favoured mood and tone over actual story. The conversation is about anxiety and paranoia. Apocalypse Now is about nihilism and despair. The problem is, I'm not really sure what Twixt is about. Is it about the grief of a grieving father? He involved autobiographical elements in as much as his son actually did die in a boating accident, which is...
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, that's assumedly not from having driven into a rope that was, ghost ship style pulled taut across the bow of the boat, but,
Yeah.
He wasn't cast Detroit out of existence, but is it about pain, religious zeal? There's elements of that. Writer's block, vampires? the decline of a once promising talent, the complications of living in a small town. It kind of feels like the Paul and Paul's second cinematic therapy session. I'm just not sure that he actually had the breakthrough that Von Trier has. This feels like the work rather than the solution at the end.
Like he called it in an interview his own student film, and that's definitely the vibe that I got from it whilst watching it. So there were so many obliquely weird moments in the dream sequences. There'd be some crazy soundtrack which didn't match the film at all.
Yeah.
And then the priest played by Sean Locke going and like waving his hands around at like double time.
Never ever go with the people across the lake.
It was so inept.
Yeah, it was very flat.
I'd like to think that it was a film about the creative process and what it takes to actually write something and, you know, battling your inner demons. But because so much of it was unintentional comedy, it was really difficult to know what was intended and what was accidental.
It was, because a lot of it feels kind of, you know, puckish, like cheeky, because of how like on the nose it is. I mean, it is a story, you know, with vampires and ghouls and Ellie Fanning and Bruce Dern sort of lunging at you from the shadows. So to some extent, you have to believe it's self-aware. And the thing is, I found the atmosphere of this film utterly intoxicating. Like, from that first dream sequence where everybody's just talking in that way.
You scared of me yet?
What? Yes. Little.
That clock has chimed midnight 3 times already.
Keeping track of time around here is pointless. That's why I missed your book signing.
Well, that old hotel is open.
Because it really reminded me in that way of a late 90s survival horror game. It's very Resident Evil. It's, you know, it's, I hope this is not Chris's blood.
Yeah.
It's very much like that, and very specifically it reminded me of the recent PS3 game, Deadly Premonition, which I will be absolutely thrilled to sample for you all now.
Here you go. The usual. 1 turkey, strawberry jam, and cereal sandwich.
Sounds like the sinner's sandwich. Self-inflicted punishment to atone for past sins. He's setting an example.
Mr. Francis York Morgan, you should try this wonderful lunch. It's more than a delicious, tasty crunch.
Or like FMV games, like The Ripper or Phantasmagoria. It was that caliber of performance of people speaking to each other. And also every scene looked like it had been clumsily, like, MS painted into the background and behind the actors.
He really got the weirdest performances out of these characters, but some of it it comes from these strange editing decisions that seem to. It showed us the character just half a second before Francis Ford Coppola said action.
I still got a cigarette. There's one line of Ellie Fanning's that really reminds me of The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Because it's kind of like this, especially Barry Cogan's performance, because there's a line she has which is like faux natural, and it's the line where she's like,
I love your books, especially the part where Elizabeth says, "Forsake me never, for I will entice you from my grave." That's my favorite part.
It's very weird.
First 5-10 minutes I thought was pretty strong.
Yeah.
I thought the performances were really good. He had like quite a nice
Bruce Dern lunging at you from the awkward camera angle.
Oh man, Bruce Dern was all up in everyone's gut, and it was amazing. The like really sort of tight, dry comedy. It had a Lynchian feel to it.
I think the Lynchian feel persevered.
Off-piste everything felt.
Yeah, the Lynchian feel did persevere in as much as you had these eccentric characters kind of bouncing off each other and bizarre cinematography and sort of lo-fi grisliness to it.
Yeah, but this is my point. It felt less intentional. It felt less intended come the halfway mark. So at no point is Lynch not aware of everything that he's doing. Whereas it felt like Francis Ford Coppola just lost control at some point. And it became like he just forgot what he was doing. The discussions between Val Kilmer and between Hall Baltimore and Edgar Allan Poe were so cringeworthy. And there was nothing insightful about it. I was
No.
sitting there waiting for some sort of insight about the process, about, what it means to create. And,
Yeah.
Surely Francis Ford Coppola, director of the fucking Godfather and Apocalypse Now and Tetro, would have something really insightful to say about the creative process. But
And writer's
all it was
block.
was, but all it was, drink some whiskey now and do an impression of a gay black basketball player.
Yeah, the thing is, I found myself very often paying absolutely no attention to what was being said at all. And I think that's partly because of the incredibly, what's the word? Not slopperific. When it's something... Sopperific? Effect of the...
Slobberific.
This was slopperific, says Paul. Ugh.
5 stars.
Ugh. It has a really bizarre dreamlike effect where I did stop paying attention to what people were saying and focus more on how they were saying it and the eeriness of the vibe. There's a very similar film called Carnival of Souls, and Carnival of Souls is actually a brilliant film. It was made in 1960. Ooh, I want to say 8. Let me just confirm that. But it was made by people who had never made movies before. The director, Herc Harvey, had only made documentaries before. But suddenly decided, fuck it, let's give feature films a go, and we'll try a horror. And 1962, excuse me. And directors like David Lynch have actually sort of cited, and George A. Romero have cited it as big influences on them. And they're using techniques that films wouldn't use, because that nobody who knew what they were doing would use. And they did some very weird things, and the performances are pretty bad, and the musical score sounds very cheap because it's by one guy on his organ. His early 60s electronic organ. So there's this...
Nice.
But everything unites. The cheapness of it, the slight inauthenticity of everything, it unites to form like the closest thing I've ever seen to like a dream on film.
Huh.
And there's some aspects of that to Twixt. Twixt. There's a very surreal atmosphere that I did quite appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, whilst watching it, I was thinking of David Lynch a bit. I was also thinking of Guy Madden. The Forbidden Room. It has a lot in tune with that visually. But again, you watch the Forbidden Room and you fucking love it and think it's the perfect and most difficult film you'll ever watch. Then you go back to Twixt and you are kind of mesmerised by the visuals, by how it looks like a third-rate Sin City. But what was he doing?
Well, that's the interesting thing, is this idea of what was he doing, and was this a sort of a stab at something different? Because he can do naturalism. It has been a while, granted, but then there's Tetro. So, and similar films of recent time where he does effect of naturalism. So maybe he was going for something a bit more experimental here, and the atmosphere was part of that.
And definitely a star for effort, and I was really enjoying the first 5-10 minutes. It was very well shot, and I think it was a really strong piece with a really cool, like, plodding pace. He just seemed to let go of the steering wheel a little bit as it went and just be like, let's see where it turns. But he had all these grand ideas, like the live editing. Sounds fucking mind-blowing.
What was that?
Well, he had this idea where he was going to edit as the film was being shown. So to change the plot and change the direction the movie would be going in, and character decisions, and change the experience depending on what showing you went to see. But in the end, it was too much effort or too difficult. So he just ended up changing the story. So
that's him all over, because originally he wanted, after having spent like $70 million on fucking Apocalypse Now, he then didn't want it to be wide released. He wanted it to be a roadshow picture. In other words, like a fucking circus, he and his vans would pack up and travel from town to town showing this movie to people. And like, was that it? Or was it he wanted a massive cinema set up right in the smack dab in the middle of the United States? It would be the only cinema in the world showing Apocalypse Now. And you'd have to pilgrimage to it. He is a madman. It's the thing. But I think maybe that's what made him so brilliant at one stage. But you can't expect the lunatic who draws incredible art out of dead birds to be consistent in his work.
In the past, he's had people to rein that in. He's had studios to say, no, Francis, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
That didn't go down. That didn't always go down terribly well. I don't know what a creative type would have turned this into. Like, what is the ideal version of this?
Well, not necessarily a creative type, but if a studio were
what
here,
would a
I'd be
cynical
curious.
type have turned this into? Like, what's the commercial version of Twixt?
Well, I'm not sure because I'm not a cynical type. You know, I'm a dreamer, Paul. But I think if there was a realist producer type in there, and Francis Ford Coppola said, I'm going to do live editing, and it's only going to be playing in this one cinema, and it's going to be this and this, he'd have gone, okay, now let's sit down and just try and figure out, is this workable? And if they can come to the conclusion that maybe it isn't, he could have maybe worked towards a stronger film that would be suited to the conventional cinema.
So the theory is that this is only a mess because he had planned on re-editing it every single night of its run. And because he didn't, he left in all the terrible acting and the flat cinematography, and the bizarre editing choices that include cutting to an operator on the other end of a phone at one point. Val Kilmer needs to call the sheriff's department, and so calls an operator, and they're like, hello, 1940s.
Look, I'm not saying that it would have been good. Yeah. I'm just saying that it would have had maybe a bit more direction, ironically.
If the director had been diminished somewhat,
yeah,
there would have been more direction. No, maybe. But, the thing is, as a good movie, I don't know what this looks like. Like some sort of, I guess it's kind of like a Silent Hill style deal of, you know, an upside and a downside to this town, and there's a mirror world that the writer keeps descending into, which is the world of imagination, and maybe some commentary on how creative types are often maligned by modern society, but their insight can in fact reveal things about how the world works. Okay, yeah, there's actually quite a lot you could have done with this. I'm thinking about it for a second, but nevertheless, as a good movie, there's a lot of work to be done. As a bad movie, I like it quite a lot. We were originally due to review The Cobbler for this week, and I got 15 minutes in and thought, this is so fucking boring. There is no way we can talk about this for 90 minutes, which is how long we usually do. 15 minutes into this, you're at the first meeting with Vampire Fanning.
Yes.
You know, and you've already had Bruce Dern lunging at you. You've had your Tom Waits introduction. You've had your Halloween 5 shots of a deserted town.
Yep. You've had 75, a cycle through 75 different musical numbers.
All on the same Casio keyboard. You can't say that it's not entertaining or sort of, well, maybe you could. You can't say it's not engaging.
Yeah.
It keeps trying different things. It's going to keep pulling things out of its pocket to try and keep you distracted.
Certainly. Just maybe a touch more analysis, just to root it in something emotional, if not logical, or, you know.
Maybe there was the potential here for this to be so much more, but as a film that's not very good, it's quite good, I would say.
But I was glad when it was over.
Fair enough. I did read a review that suggested Ford Coppola's career would be much more satisfying if done in reverse. Okay. Like, if Twixt was the sort of student film of a director struggling to find his feet, and then it culminated in his career of stuff like Apocalypse Now and The Godfather and The Conversation, demonstrating him at the height of his powers. And it's a little frustrating that we have things the way around that they are, because it just represents a kind of decline, which I guess is a shame, but...
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends how teleological you want to be about it. Do you want to see things in this, like, from beginning to end and be like, oh, such a downfall, such a shame, or just be like, well, he's trying things, they're not working.
Yeah.
But he did his amazing work, and now he's just trying to do something new because maybe he doesn't want to do another 3-hour epic.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't want to nearly kill Martin Sheen again. The only thing that I really have a problem with about Twixt, really have a problem with, is that it is Francis Ford Coppola's last film, and that he's still, he's still alive, he still has energy. I see him interviewed, and he's not making films anymore, and that seems a shame to me, and I wish he was, even if they were films of this caliber, because, I mean, fucking hell, he's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's quickfire. Val Kilmer does look properly fucking miserable in that book signing in a hardware store. And I've been to some bad book signings where nobody's shown up, and it really is the worst thing in the world. Oh, man. There's nothing the author can do to look good. I mean, if they've got their phone out, it's like, oh god, you're not even trying. If they're sitting there smiling at people, it's like, ugh.
If the author knows your full name, then it's a bad book signing.
If you see them chatting to like a dude, it's like, oh, you shouldn't have to chat to that dude. No, I really liked that last book actually. No, it was really interesting. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah, I thought your recent book was a bit of a step down. Actually, it was weak call Baltimore, but you know, I'll still read the new one.
I am wearing an unbuttoned checkered shirt, so on top of a vest. So you know, make of that what you will. You know,
yeah,
just
brilliant.
Putting it out there.
Brilliant. Anyway, I'm going to go and find a young shop assistant that I can hit on for the next hour.
So yeah, it was a depressing book signing and I liked it.
Yeah. In that book signing, actually, there's one bit where Bruce Dern introduces himself to Val Kilmer and he leans right into him and they're talking
in
face
a squat
to face,
shot.
very close up, and then the camera pans out and he's stretched the whole way across this table.
Yes.
Perched on his own gut.
Yes, which every time I tried to find a copy of this to stream from, that was the still for some reason.
Ooh, I want to watch this now.
Yes, and he signs Bruce Dern's book, Best Witches.
Yes, fantastic. This is that
wonderful.
This is that good humour that we were talking about. There is some of it actually in this fucking film, but it's all squeezed into the first 5 minutes of this film. And I thought it was going to be a very clever, very sort of dour, broken flowers but good kind of film.
If only. When he picks up his first book at one stage, and it has a quote on the front that says, "A great start from a good start."
Yeah.
Well done, it says. It says something like a good start from a promising new voice, or something like that. And it had me sad. Like, I actually got melancholy there at the idea of, you know, he's this old author, his glory days are behind him. But, you know, and he's recalling maybe what that quote meant to him the first time he read it. The first bit of praise he got. And maybe it's just because of where I am now, where I'm beginning to get the first few sort of sniffs of that truffle of success in this field. But I can imagine, I could really relate to the idea of what that must have meant to him to have, you know, gotten that first good review from a major publication, and the melancholy that he would now feel, you know, in this little town. Yeah, I felt that.
Turns out that review was Ain't It Cool News.
Oh no, it never meant anything then.
There was something, should have got one from One Good Thing. The real critics.
Yay! We loved it. Witch loved it.
Best Witches, One Good Thing. There's one particular line that did actually make me laugh.
She wore taffeta.
It was very good.
Elle Fanning looks really cool. This is like the proto-neon demon look. She's kind of completely white with sort of red under the eyes and shiny braces on vampire teeth. Yeah, she had a look going on. And it was very sort of Tim Burton. I enjoyed.
Cool. And I was a big fan of Bruce Dern's eyes. He's got great big sad eyes that he used to full effect in The Hateful Eight, but he had a big old horrible Bobby LaGrange performance on top of it.
Well, speaking of terrible performances, there was a line where I genuinely don't know how to take it, and it was said by Val Kilmer when he's talking about having only written about witches before, and it says something like, but what are vampires except witches that suck blood? And Bruce Dern just replies, well, they're very different. And then just moves on, not explaining the differences at all, as if it was just evident.
Yeah.
What are vampires but witches who suck blood? A different thing. Anyway.
Oh, no, you're right, actually. Sorry.
Val Kilmer just quietly mouths, shit. Thought that was clever.
I've got, I've just written pretty good. I don't know what else.
Be more specific. I told you this before.
That's it. There's a scene where he's setting up his writing desk. It's an overhead camera. There's some it's almost like the gonk kind of music, and methodically placing pens next to each other and then setting up his laptop to be parallel to the edge of the desk, and it's all very nice procrastination and well shot.
Relatable.
Pretty good.
Oh, the fucking model that Bruce Dern has made of his staking machine with a little Barbie in it.
Yes.
Built by vampires for vampires, according to Mr. Bruce Dern. It's fucking amazing. And why are you not immediately the murderer? Like, the second he brought that out, it should have just been like, oh, you're the murderer. What? It's just a model. I'm going to call every policeman.
Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Hello, it's Bobby LaGrange. Shit. I've got to think of these things. Fucking idiot, Val Kilmer. You fucking idiot. Again.
I'm so drunk.
You stupid idiot.
Meat on the bone.
It's as incriminating as George Clooney's dildo chair in Burn After Reading, I think.
Which outs him as the vampire killer in that film. I didn't watch all of it. I imagine the ending went like that.
I thought the soundtrack was really interesting. It just didn't match the film in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Shot by someone who wasn't Tyler Bates. Shot by? Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm doing the film now.
I'm shooting the soundtrack.
That does explain a lot, actually.
Did like the guy playing Edgar Allan Poe, Sir Dorian Gray. Like, his lines might be terrible, but I liked his hammy overacting in Edgar Allan Poe.
Death, and when is this most tragic of melancholy topics most poetical? When it most loosely alludes itself to beauty.
He looked like he had a prosthetic nose, and I don't think he did. It just looked weird. Everything about his get-up.
He had a prosthetic Edgar Allan Poe.
I was just going to say that. Yes, we're so good. Hey, we're so good, everyone.
Good and tired.
God.
Do you have another?
And then talking about the hotel scene again, when they're talking about daylight savings, there's something
Yes.
visually arresting about that, I thought. I don't know whether they upped the frame rate or lowered it.
I wondered if they shot everything in reverse and then played it forwards.
Okay.
It was very weird. All of them, yep.
Yeah.
Every technique.
Well, first I upped the frame rate, and then I lowered it, and...
Then I simultaneously upped it and lowered it. That didn't have as much effect as I would have hoped.
So then I upped it and lowered it on 7 separate cameras, and presto, I had an aneurysm, and the rest of the film just sort of shot itself.
I woke up with a film. Love it when that happens.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's very surreal, and that was intentional, and I liked that.
I really like the visit to the kids, the fucking twats across the lake, the bollocks across the lake. The visit over there includes some great goth dancing, which is always a difficult thing to film. It's happening so slowly, I can't capture it on my camera. And Flamingo, played by Alden Eldenreich, is fucking great.
Yeah,
he's really fucking. I mean, as great goes in this, he's speaking French in a bizarre accent.
Under the volume of the film.
Under the effects of heavy mescaline.
I know life, man, and I know the dreams of Baudelaire. Et que tout l'horizon, ombre sans tu le sais.
Under the influence of Francis Ford Coppola, he gives a hell of a fucking performance.
Fair enough.
He's going 1,000,000 miles an hour in slow motion.
Oh, no wonder they cast him for Han Solo.
We saw this and we're like, yes, the Twixt guy.
When his wife calls on Skype and Skype answers itself when Val Kilmer's actually still asleep, she says, "It's your wife," and he's like, "Yeah, I know who you are." That's pretty cool, I thought.
Yes, yeah. Now, I've indicated the entirety of the special lemonade scene, but I don't know why.
There's a lot of stuff going on with Eddie Fanning, I think, going, "Don't drink the lemonade. Don't drink it. Don't."
No. And he's just like, "Drink the special lemonade."
Yeah, it's a good Sean Locke impression. Wang, 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 wang.
And I've written the quote, "He drugged their lemonade and slit their throats." Oh, that's it. It's because it was delivered really ominously by the fucking narrator, I think.
Oh, was it? I thought maybe it was either Val Kilmer or Edgar Allan Poe.
Rather than have his children's souls be damned as vampires, he drugged their lemonade and slit their throats.
Yeah, it was Edgar Allan Poe in his very serious British voice, just saying lemonade, and then he did a poo on their Twix. He
did a big poo on the little girls. Made a mess in their 13-year-old boobies. I'm Edgar Allan Poe, paedophile.
He laid a botty biscuit all over their bonnets. He was a poet, Paul. You've got to do it authentically.
Oh gosh. He jammed up their diaphragms.
What? Oh no.
With evil priesty poking.
Priesty poking helps bring it back, but you leave those little girls' diaphragms alone, sir. Edgar Allan Poe.
I didn't mean there's actually nothing sexual about jammed. It was just a sort of rubbish English word for shitted up. When Ellie Fanning becomes a vampire at the very end, and her teeth grow, and it snaps her braces off, and as they're flying towards Val Kilmer, he dodges them left and right.
With a weird little ping noise.
As if the film was meant to be funny.
Oh, man. Well, look, let's end on Fanning, because my final one is that the sight of her sort of covered in blood, sort of in the forest, sort of roaring at the priest, is pretty fucking eerie looking.
Cool.
Yeah, that stuck out to me, so... Yeah, I'd say that was the end of quick firing about Twixes.
Excellent. Well, we've got one OGT.
Oh, yeah? What's from the OGT member? Okay, please tell us the one Nell thing about Twixes. Is it that they are covered in chocolate and are delicious?
Twixy, 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 it says.
Trixie, Twixy, Trix. Oh, no! It's a trap. Look out, Han Solo.
It's a Twixy trap, Han Solo.
That's the name of the sequel to the Solo movie. It's a Twixy trap, Han Solo. A Star Wars story.
All right, the one good Nell, Janelle, my girlfriend. Hello. She said, my one good thing was about 10 minutes in when the sheriff drives into the curb as he's parking his car. After this, I blacked out. Do you lose your directing skills once you get over 70? Well, yes. Actually. Thanks, OG team.
Thanks, OG Nell. Thanks.
No.
Okay, let's talk about the one better thing. The one better thing.
So, my one better thing is Midnight in Paris. Woody Allen's film about Woody Allen after all those other films about Woody Allen. However, this time, it's against the backdrop of Paris. Owen Wilson plays Woody Allen, the screenwriter trying his luck with a novel about an old nostalgia shop. His fiancée, Inez, is ambivalent to his dreams and cold to his work, seemingly concerned only with money and possessions. Sounds like any other Woody Allen film, right? Fuck off, you idiot! Because in this one, they're in Paris, and at midnight, Owen Wilson is transported back to the 1920s or something to rub shoulders with Gertrude Stein, Ernest Hemingway, the Fitzgeralds, and so on. It's a great cast giving some fucking powerful performances of the great artists of the last century, and it says a lot about writing for the soul and creation and all those things. You know, what it actually means to do things. Probably my favourite Woody Allen, actually. Ooh. Very clever, funny, and with clear direction and message.
Oh, God, my favourite movie, that's right. I don't know what this is. My one better thing is Shutter Island. Hello, OG team. Paul Salt here. At this stage in the recording, I attempted to recommend Martin Scorsese's 2009 psychological thriller, Shutter Island. However, as this was nearing the end of the recording, and the time difference between the UK and Australia meant I was recording this at 1 a.m, in the midst of a bout of food poisoning, my recommendation was a little less than coherent. Suffice to say, there's a lot to recommend Martin Scorsese's mind-bending foray into the horror genre, including a great performance from Leo DiCaprio, hauntingly beautiful visuals, and a cryptic mystery that intrigues and intrigues. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Let's get back to those lovable pools and find out what they're up to.
So they've all got their tits out.
They've all got their tits out. You're gonna kick each one up the arse in succession. It's gonna be very satisfying, and that is the experience of watching Shutter Island.
Boom! One better thing, idiots.
The one better thing. Thank you for listening to One Good Thing, I guess.
Yep. If you want to get in touch, you can do so at Twitter at OGTPod, Facebook /OGTPod, send us an email, ogtpod@gmail.com.
Yep.
If you want to do us a solid like Dennis Rodman did for Kim Jong-un, then you can...
bless him. Or like Steven Seagal did for Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
Celebrities of the 80s and 90s. They're a bit sinister. What's Jean-Claude Van Damme up to? Well, you don't even want to know.
Him and Sarah Palin, let's just say. They can see Russia from her house. They left us a review, so why don't you leave us a review? It's the only decent thing to do, really.
Are you as nice as Dennis Rodman? Let's find out.
You've got 1 minute. Go.
1 minute to prove yourself better than Dennis Rodman. Any means necessary. Do it now.
If you're new to the show, then please do us a massive solid like Dennis Rodman. I've done that. And subscribe to us on iTunes, or you can catch us on YouTube. Subscribe there, or Podbean, Stitcher, or any good podcatcher.
I'm Paul Pye. Oh, that's the fucking name. That's the Vernigat name.
Oh.
I'm Paul Pye, P.I.
Jesus. I'm Polyglot Johnson.
I don't remember. The one good thing about Francis Ford Coppola's Twixt is Ellie Fanning freaking you out in a bush.